Did.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank
Denise
you.
Simmons.
Thank you.
You're running for the city council.
Again.
Again, what's this, which term is
I'm
this?
in my 6th term, so this will be, I'm
Oh,
running for
wow.
a 7th term.
You
Trying
ready?
to match my record on the school committee. I served for 5 terms. So I think I've reached it, and now I'm going to go forward.
What are you gonna do differently in the next one?
Well, it's really not about doing anything different, but trying to continue some of the things that I had done in the past. You know, trying to continue to give good constituent services, continue to move the agenda around citizen involvement, continue to work on issues of housing, employment, safety, you know, in our city. It's not so much always about doing new things. Sometimes it's just moving those same agenda items forward, because you want people to have access to the city. I always say I'm a policymaker, but I'm also an advocate. And the reason why I say that is because it's important for those policies that the city council work to make happen. We have to make sure that the citizens have access, get the full benefit of those policies. So I'm a policymaker, but I'm also an advocate.
Any particular policies you think need changing?
Well, I think we should work on our inclusionary zoning or our housing policies. Right now, we had a practice of when housing become online, it was always studios and not far less studios, but ones and twos. And what that meant is that larger families, people that needed a 3-bedroom, would be locked out because we just didn't make that. We did not rally or suggest that size unit. In 2 instances, one right down here on Sydney Street, where there's a developer developing a property that's the old Vertex site. It was 109 units, but they were all 2 bedrooms. And I said, you know, for my support for this project, you have to have some 3 bedrooms. And so now they have 6 3-bedroom townhouse style. That's what's on the plan now,
Yeah.
so that, you know, larger families can remain in Cambridge that are there, or come to Cambridge that may have had to leave Cambridge and come back. They can now come back because there's a unit to accommodate their size family. Or there's another property that's currently being developed, and I said the same thing. We have to stop this practice of doing 1s and 2s. It gives us more units, but it keeps a whole group of people out. So that's one of the things I want to when I talk about changing the housing policy or practice, one of the things I really want us to be very consistent about is it may mean we have fewer affordable units, but we have more units for larger families. So that's important. To look at the formula around inclusionary zoning, that's important. Looking at how some of our training programs for the city, I have office hours. I had office hours. I called it dropping on the mayor when I was mayor, and now I'm vice mayor. I say dropping on the vice mayor. 1st and 3rd Fridays, just come in, no appointment necessary. Come and tell me what's on your mind. We can just chat, or you can express to me if there's some difficulty that you're having. I bring that up because more often than not, I'll have a number of people that'll come and say, I really am having trouble getting a job. Now that could be for a couple of reasons. They could have been laid off. They may be re-entering the workforce because they've just had a downturn in their life, and now they're up on the uptick, and they're trying to get back in, but they don't have the requisite skills. And so I've been working with that population. It's about 35 to 55 that want to get back into the job market, but they can't because they don't have the requisite skills. And so trying to find training programs that meet that. So that's another thing that I'm working. And then also the last thing is working with small businesses. And I shouldn't say the last thing, one other thing is working with small businesses around being able to stay in the city. And when I say small businesses, as Kendall Square, Central Square in particular, become redeveloped, we want to have a range, a diverse set of businesses so that everyone can shop in Central Square, everyone can shop in Kendall Square. We don't want the retail to be so expensive and exclusive that people don't go because they can't afford the services and goods.
When you say everyone, you mean people with different incomes.
People with different incomes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily mean people from all over the state.
I mean people from Cambridge from different incomes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any thoughts about the net zero issue?
I do have some thoughts. I think, first of all, I want to applaud the people, Mike Connolly and others, Quentin, who have brought forward this idea of the net zero petition. I have some concerns, and I think anything that is a major policy a major policy change or an initiative needs to be properly vetted. What is that? What do I mean by that? It has to be talked through the planning board and the BZA, but the city council has to talk about it. But so do the citizens have to talk about it and know about it and understand what it means. What does a net zero building mean? How does that impact their life? But most importantly for me, it's how does it or will it impact affordable housing? When I talk to some of the people that develop affordable housing, they're concerned that the criteria that's laid out in the current petition will prohibit or diminish the amount of affordable housing because they can't make the criteria. As they say now, the ones that I've spoken to, there's a lot of hurdles as it is to build affordable housing. Does the net zero petition, does that criteria become just yet another hurdle and make investors not want to do it?
Yeah.
And that's important to me.
We postpone the flood a little longer?
I don't know if it's can we
less
postpone the flood? I mean, the net zero petition is just one of many things that we can do to sort of put a halt on climate change. For me, and years ago I was a member of a group called UMGA, Urban Mass Green Alliance. And the Urban Mass Green Alliance was a group of people of color trying to educate more people of color about climate change, environmental protection, and those kinds of things. And why? Because people of color and poor people all too often suffer the greatest by what I call the lack of what would be environmental justice. You look at certain areas of our city, you'll see higher incidences of asthma. And that has directly correlates with the poorness of our environment. Yet and still, some of these families are so mired down in some of the basics that they can't take the next step to be more environmentally conscious. So for me, it's how do I work with that constituency to let them know the easy, everyday ways that they can be more environmentally participating.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. From changing light bulbs to energy audits to understanding the benefit of having photovoltaics on their building. All of that's important. And one of the things that I think is incumbent upon the environmental community is that they reach out, down, and as well as reaching up to bring all the people into the room. Because we cannot protect the environment for just one zip code. Can't just be for one group of people. That's one thing that we have to do for everybody.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense. I mean, we certainly don't, because it'd be the people in the lower places or the poorer housing that would be most affected by
It's even looking at some of the
climate
housing policies. Let's talk about housing policies again. For people that are susceptible or have higher evidences or incidences of asthma, they shouldn't be around carpeting. For a very long time, we would, the more moderate income housing and low income housing would always have carpeting. We have to get away from that because it's not healthy for the residents that live there. I mean, I could probably go on, but we can talk about other things as well.
Yeah. I personally, I like carpeting, but maybe it's
I like
not.
it too, but maybe it doesn't need to be wall to wall. It can't be what you can't pull it up and take it out.
It should be cleanable, that's for sure.
Right, should be removable.
Removable too, right? So what are some of these other things you were doing, you've been doing as
some
part
of
of
the
that
things
service?
That when we talk about service and constituency service, that's important for me is the town meeting style of way I have to reach out to people. I've done a number of town meetings, and the reason why I do these town meetings is it's an opportunity to talk to people, to open the doors of City Hall or a city building, invite people in to talk about an issue that's important to them. So I've done that around the senior issues, I've done it around GLBT issues, I'm doing it now around race and class issues, and I look to continue to use that model as a way of engaging the public around issues that are important to them and then taking the term to work on those issues.
People come to this meeting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you feed them.
Oh, you feed them, there you go.
It's an incentive.
Yeah. So this meeting tomorrow about net zero, has that been advertised widely so that people will come?
Fairly so. I mean, I know the people that are, the petitioners are certainly going to be there, and some experts are going to be here to talk about our net zero school building that we're building down on Putnam Avenue. concerned citizens, the city councils will be there, and there's actually a lot crammed on that day because there's also a candidates night, so it's going to be interesting how we balance that all. But I think
Is there any
it's
time
just,
between the two?
no, they're almost at the same time. In fact, the people that are sponsoring the candidates night have pushed it back a half hour so that city councils that want to go to the net zero discussion can participate in some of it. And it's really unfortunate because I would like to be there for all of it. You're trying to juggle, what am I going to do? Do I do the net zero, which is extraordinarily important? Do I go to the candidates night? You have to kind of try to do both.
So many hours in the day,
Only so many. But that's not on my thing to do list, is making the day longer.
right? Yeah, there you go. That'd be an interesting feat to
It would
accomplish.
be. Can imagine how well I would do if I could do that.
So
extended
you're gonna be reelected?
Of course, I'm going to work hard and get reelected to continue to do the work at serving the citizens of Cambridge. And when I say serving, it's also not the best word. I should say working with and for. Working with and for. I think it's a dream job in that. How many people can live and work in the city that they grew up? I grew up in Cambridge, so it's wonderful to be able to live, work here, have a part of molding and shaping the city. I love the city.
And you've been, you were from the school committee?
Well, it's a little longer walk. I came to the city
Okay.
of Cambridge in February of 1980, and I worked as the executive director of the Civic Unity Committee. And the Civic Unity Committee was a committee, organization, or commission, but they didn't call it commission at the time, of the city that worked on issues of race, class, and religion. It was one of about 40 civic unity committees across the country, established initially to help African American veterans reintegrate after they fought in the war. They were having a hard time finding housing, finding employment. And so these civic unity commissions or committees popped up all across the United States, and Cambridge certainly was one of those cities that had one. And I worked for that organization for 10 years. I was its last executive director. But it was sort of the platform from which I reinforced school committee. And I went from the school committee from 1991 to 2001, and from city council 2001 to present.
Wow. That's a pretty impressive career.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you so much for coming,
It's a pleasure to be here.
and good luck.
I thank you. And thank you for having me on your show. It's
Thank you for coming.
quite a pleasure and a privilege.
I'm glad to have you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. I just put it in there. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, come closer. There you
Get
go.
in there tight.
Yeah, there you go.
How you doing?
Logan Leslie,
That's me. Pleasure to meet you.
welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
You're most welcome. You're running for the city council.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I am.
This is your first time. as
This is my
opposed
first
to
time.
Denise's.
It's my first time ever running for public office.
Right. And you've been in Cambridge a short time too. no?
A short time, yes.
How long?
Just over a year now.
Is that when you started at Harvard?
I started Harvard last September, so we got here right about a month before that,
Wow.
and we love it here. This is our first this is our first chance to put down roots in a long time.
How did you decide that Cambridge was a place you love?
The place I love or place to live?
Place you love.
The place I love.
Well, it's worth running for council in.
Oh, it absolutely is. Cambridge has it's a very unique city, and I'm sure anyone watching this would agree. It's like no other place I've ever been, and so I served in the military for the last 8 years, but coming up on my 10-year mark actually with my National Guard time.
Wow.
But I was very involved in my community back in Connecticut where I grew up. I was in the Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout. I was a volunteer firefighter, and had a chance to get involved in the community to a great extent. And that's the way I've always liked it. I've always wanted to be very active. And being in the military, you don't really have that opportunity. You get moved around. You're gone for 8 months at a time, a year, and where you are, you always feel like a temporary resident. So coming here after leaving active duty, after making a large change in lifestyle, my wife and I are very actively putting down roots here and trying to get involved to the greatest extent that we can.
Did you marry while you were in the military? or-
I did. She's
So she's been with you for a
she's
while?
been with me through 2 deployments.
Oh, wow. Did she
Well,
go
well,
with you? to
3
the field?
deployments actually. Two married, and she did not. Did she go with me?
Yeah.
No. She was not able to. She
So you were gone and she was here?
she was back at this time. We were in Tennessee when I met her in North Carolina. She was working for Duke University.
Uh-huh.
Her name is Erica, and when I
Okay.
was stationed at Fort Campbell after Fort Bragg, she came with me, and the rest is history. Got married and have a 19-month-old daughter named Lila.
Wow.
And my wife is pregnant right now, and
Oh.
within a month or so we'll have our second daughter.
And you want to be in the city council?
Yes, ma'am. Very, very much so.
Well, what are your special qualifications for helping Cambridge when you're
Okay.
basically a newcomer?
Well, my background is extremely unique to Cambridge. I think it's unique in general, and serving in the military doesn't necessarily qualify someone to run for office. I totally agree with that. And I think some people run on that fact, and I'm not running on that fact. I think it's important to mention because that's been my life. What I gained from my service, from my multiple trips overseas, is the ability to work with people of all different backgrounds, people that didn't even speak English, and people I had to work with. In our lives depended on us working together well, and people that. So with that, professionalism came to the table. Compromise was a big thing. And working together past personal differences to accomplish a goal was necessary, and I have those skills.
What particular obstacles did you overcome and how?
What obstacles that there every day overseas we had challenges that were whether it was how we were going to go about doing a particular mission or how we were going to help a people. So in Afghanistan on my first trip, the big thing we needed to do was build infrastructure in towns and work with local governments and put in police forces and identify people that needed services such as a well, like people needed drinking water. And we had limited assets and we needed to allocate them intelligently, and we needed to help these people. And it was always a challenge. It was a cultural divide, a language divide, and we made a very positive difference in the area that we had.
Did you have to find out what the people wanted before you built things?
Absolutely. That was more or less the easy part, was finding out what people wanted. People are very, very free with what they think they need, and the hard part is figuring out how you can provide that and how you can prioritize what you have to help the people that need it most. And obviously these issues are a lot of them were reserved to a battlefield, so they don't directly apply here. But we have challenges here. We have issues that professionalism needs to be brought to the table to solve these problems reasonably and objectively.
And what sort of professionalism did you offer then?
Did it offer then?
To them, yeah.
Are getting past personal issues, getting past personal dynamics, and I think that this last council there have been instances where solving the issue wasn't the main priority, where people let dynamics stall processes that should never have been stalled. Without going into great depth, I think the city manager search was one of those issues. I think that it could have been handled a little differently. I think that professionalism, I think that people's dynamics, the inability for some people to work with each other, probably hindered that process.
So, how would you think the result would have been different? Could you pull up
Sure.
a little bit? So I keep
Towards you or away from you?
forward,
Okay. How would it?
because I'm looking back.
Okay. I don't. So the council, the city manager we have now, Mr. Rossi, I think was probably a good decision, and it's to provide continuity, and the council is being public with their intention to find a longer term manager, but I think that I think we were promised we were promised a countrywide search. We were promised a comprehensive process, and I don't think we saw that. And I think a lot of people were disappointed with that.
Do you think it'll happen now?
Now the pressure
Now that we have 3 years, it will.
I certainly hope so. I don't want I think that we could make some personnel changes on the council. I think to avoid a situation that just occurred. If we have the same people, the exact same people, the exact same dynamics, there's nothing to say that it'll be any different this
Well,
time
we
around.
know there are two people who are leaving, so.
Exactly. That's absolutely.
So it won't be identical.
No, that's very good
You're
point.
gonna fill one of those places?
I certainly hope so. I'm working extremely hard to be one of those people. And traditionally, when there has been two empty seats,
Both of them were women. Are we gonna be able to get our numbers,
yeah,
numbers up again?
and then we talked about this earlier. I think so. With elected government, there is a school of thought that they should represent ideas, but as well as demographics. So if you have an elected body can be almost a microcosm of the people that elected them there. So there's certainly a lot of merit in wanting to have the same ratio of female to male, the same ratios, whether it's race, whether it's age, and so there would be a lot of people would tell you that we would probably have it would be a suggestion that we would have two females would fill those seats, and that'd probably be a good thing. But I was about to say that traditionally, when there has been two empty seats, there's been more than two people. There have been more than two people two seats changing hands, if you will. So it would be. I would have no problem with two new females coming in. I'd like to be the third if there are 3 seats changing hands.
3 seats, yeah. Well, I don't think they're designated by gender, but I think, well, my guess is that it's not just, you don't want those people there just because they are a proportion of the population, but because they represent different ideas and attitudes.
Absolutely.
And because they have different experiences, right?
Different experiences is key.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you've brought up the fact that I'm new here, and to some people that could be viewed as a liability. But Cambridge being the city that it is, the average age being 30, 1 in 5 people here is a student. So 22,000 people that live here as a student, and that's 1 in 5. That's a massive percentage.
Is that the same proportion among voters?
Registered voters?
Yeah?
No, it's not, and that's one of the things my campaign is trying to do, is trying to get students more civically engaged. We've registered a large number of students, so there is a lot of merit, I think, in having someone that's of my age, a younger person, to represent the younger people of Cambridge. Someone that's newer here to represent the people that may be newer here, but this is still their home, and their input is necessary.
There are a few others running who are
Absolutely.
approximates the same age.
We have Luis Vasquez is a young man that grew up in the community, and I can say the same for someone of his background. That young perspective is very important. It's very important.
Certainly good to have a variety of perspectives, right?
Absolutely.
Since it's a variety of people in Cambridge.
That's my point. That's my point. Is if you have a town of where the average age is 30. Mr. Councilor Chung is a young man. He was recently a student, but he's no longer a student, and
Doesn't count anymore.
he's still a young. We need to have that. I think we need to have a continuity. I think it would be beneficial for the town to have someone that's deeply tied in with the student community on the council.
Sounds like a good idea.
Thank you. I think so.
And some of us too. So, we sort of have to hope, there are a lot of newcomers in Cambridge. I don't know what the proportions are. I guess it probably depends on where you divide the line,
Sure.
what's new, what's not. But there are a number of people who lived all their lives here, like Denise Simmons.
Absolutely.
We sort of have to recognize them too.
Yeah, I'm not recognizing them.
Yeah, right.
But there are 9 seats for a reason, and proportional representation serves a purpose. It serves a purpose to represent different blocks of people, and if you objectively look at the council, I don't think that purpose is being realized as greatly as it can be.
So what are the major things you think you can accomplish in the next 2 years?
Well,
the council?
we spoke about the student population. I want to immediately set up mechanisms to incorporate their leadership into the community. That's a main issue, and I plan on tackling that whether I'm a counselor or whether I'm not a counselor. I think that's very beneficial for Cambridge. In addition to that, the main thing that I think that I can do on the council is try to bring the zoning code into the conversation a little better.
And what would you want the zoning code to do? differently?
So zoning is one of control of the zoning is one of the most powerful things that the council does, and right now it's extremely complex, and the way the code is written, and I think the business leaders in the city, Chamber of Commerce would agree that it reflects our fears of progress, our fear of change, better than it reflects our hopes for progress or hopes for what Cambridge can be. And I would take it as a mark of success to reduce complexity in the zoning code.
But that by itself isn't gonna change policy unless, so you have to have some idea of what direction that change is gonna go, right?
Absolutely. Well, it would be an indicator of how successful it is how if we can reduce the workload on the Board of Zoning Appeals. We have there are cities much larger than ours that have fewer appeals to their Board of Zoning, and we're packed, and it's full, and that represents time where a homeowner or a landlord or a small business owner wants to make a change to enhance their property or to enhance their business. And if they're spending an entire night with their architect, with a lawyer, spending money, taking months, and their storefront may be vacant while they're trying to get a variance passed, that's anything we can do to try to eliminate that, try to reduce that is going to make it easier on small businesses.
But isn't that a function of development, that the zoning board is busy? It's busy because things are happening.
Yes, but it could be. It's also busy because it's complicated. If we make it easier, certainly there will be the BZA serves a purpose and it will continue to do that. But if we can reduce some of the menial things that they face, then it will be a lot easier.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Logan, Leslie, you're running for
City Council.